So now that we have a general idea of what an elasticity is measuring, elasticity of demand or elasticity of supply, looking at a percentage change in quantity and a percentage change in price, let's move into a more specific example of a cross-price elasticity or an income elasticity. These are typically slightly harder because what we're focusing on is different. And an elasticity of supply or an elasticity of demand, those are focused on the relationship between the number 1. We're looking at the absolute value and we care about the magnitude of how much those change based on the relative sizes of price and quantity changes. For income elasticities and cross-price elasticities, we do care about the magnitude, but something that's different between these is these can actually be greater than or equal to 1. Or sorry, greater than or less than 0. So let's start with an income elasticity that's greater than 0 and talk about what that means. Then we'll move on and we'll do an income elasticity that's less than 0. So an income elasticity that is greater than 0, that says that our percentage change in quantity over the percentage change in our income is positive. That means that these are moving in the same direction. That means when my income increases, I increase the quantity I purchase. When my income decreases, I decrease the quantity that I purchase. Again, these are moving in the same direction. They don't have to be negative relationship, right? We don't have an inverse relationship. We have a positive relationship. So when income goes down, I buy less. When income goes up, I buy more. We're going to define these as normal goods. These are the things that you normally purchase as you make more money. So items like clothing, gasoline, food, right? General items that you would purchase more of as you make more money. We can identify if it's a normal good based on if the income elasticity is greater than 0. If the income elasticity is less than 0, if it's a negative item, that means that as my income goes up, I purchase fewer of those items. I'll put a minus to remind us it's negative. Or as my income goes down, I have to purchase more of those items. These we define as an inferior good. Right? As my income goes up, I want less of those. Those are things like Taco Bell, ramen noodles, store brand cereal or store brand items. Rental housing is sometimes considered an inferior good. As my income goes up, I want less of it. However, if I lose some income, I want more of that item. So remember, elasticity of demand was dealing with the relationship between the number 1, because we were cared about magnitude and the sign was always negative. We do care about the magnitude here, so we have different types of normal goods. We can have necessities or luxuries. But what's really important when we first start looking at income elasticities is how is it related to 0? Is it greater than 0 or is it less than 0? That tells us normal and inferior goods. We have a similar example when it comes to the cross-price elasticity. So the cross-price elasticity can be greater than 0 or it can be less than 0, similar to the income elasticity. Right, so we can have both sides. Remember, the cross-price elasticity is A and B, so it's the percentage change in the quantity of item A as the price of item B changes. All right, so I'll go ahead and draw both of them out and we'll work through them just like we did for the last one. So when we're looking at the one where it's positive, when the cross-price elasticity is positive, what we're saying is that as the price of one item goes up, the quantity that I demand of another item also goes up. Right? A positive relationship. As the price of item B goes down, I want less of item A. These two items are known as substitutes. Right? We can identify that these are substitute items. Right? As the price of chocolate ice cream becomes more expensive, I want to purchase more vanilla ice cream. Those are substitutes for each other. As the price of Coca-Cola becomes more expensive, I want to purchase more Pepsi. And so two items are substitutes for each other. They have a positive cross-price elasticity. The price of one item moves in the same direction as the quantity of another item. If the cross-price elasticity is less than 0, that says as the price of B goes up, I demand less of item A, or as the price of item B goes down, I demand more of quantity A. Those are known as complements, and that's complements with an E. What that says is, as the price of one item goes up, I demand fewer of the other item. Right, so think of two complements that we usually eat together. Maybe it's chocolate and strawberries. As the price of chocolate increases, I demand fewer strawberries. As the price of peanut butter goes up, I demand fewer amounts of jelly. So complements are two items that we would consume together. They have a negative cross-price elasticity. So again, remember, demand and supply elasticities, our goal is to focus on one. That's kind of our focal point when it comes to those items, because the sign is either negative in case of demand or positive in case of supply. We know that relationship exists, so we ignore the sign and focus on the magnitude. When we talk about income elasticities and cross-price elasticities, however, the sign matters. If it's negative, if it's positive or negative, those have different implications for what type of good they are. So it's important that we look at the sign first, determine the type of good, then we can analyze the magnitude and say, is that an elastic normal good? Is that an inelastic inferior good? Is it an elastic substitute? Just how responsive they are. But before we can ever do that, we have to determine the sign. For elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply, we don't need to determine the sign first. So that concludes this video looking at the different types of elasticities, cross-price and income elasticities. Let's now start to utilize this table, calculate elasticity as a price point elasticity, and then we'll also calculate one as a midpoint method and talk about the difference between those.